Alright guys, let's go ahead and do this thing, huh? Here we go.
Hello, my friend.
How's it going?
Well, brother, we're hanging in there. We're
hanging in there. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Welcome into episode 12, I believe, and this one is an early release. And the reason for that is because in case you live under a rock, some crazy shit is happening in the world. And we just feel like it's a good thing to kind of dial it back, kind of talk some facts, figure out kind of best practices from here, and also try to find some reasons to keep calm and you know, make sure we all get through this. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it sounds about right. For those of you who do live under a rock and don't know what we're talking about, we are today going to be talking about the coronavirus, as it's aptly named. Also, you might know this by COVID-19. And yeah, this is kind of a special edition because, like you were saying, this is, you know, we have a platform and we have an opportunity to speak, and sometimes we feel that means that, you know, there is more of a call to do some like social justice as opposed to, or, you know, like work for a better cause as opposed to just kind of work towards like the means of what our podcast is. And this is one of those times where we are seeing things like unprecedented events are happening, not only in the United States, but in the world. We're living in a very unique time right now, and I think people will look back at this and just like, this is going to be in history books. And we would feel remiss by not speaking about this in a rational manner. There's a lot of misinformation going around. A lot of people are very scared for good reason. You know, this is kind of a solemn podcast. This isn't going to be, you know, unfortunately, like the fun-loving podcast that you guys are used to. But that's because, like I said, I think this warrants, you know, some seriousness. And also, like I said, we feel like it's kind of our duty to bring you guys actual facts and do our part, since we do have a public platform.
I will say that that's the hardest thing, is to get the facts straight, because you know, just the internet nowadays and the way that news travels. I mean, any Joe Schmo who's got a blue check mark on Twitter can say whatever the fuck they want, and it's taken as, you know, as fact.
As Bible, right? Yeah.
And it's just not the case. Yeah.
And I just want to point out that that's extreme. Like, if you are one of those people, that's extremely dangerous. Like, it's great to get likes and all that, but, like, this really is not the time with this situation.
Right.
You know, I think that this is another reason we're kind of bringing this up is some people in our government, not to point fingers, at least our American government, are kind of downplaying, like, the situation that's happening. And I think it's important, too, right now. I mean, this is going to be airing tomorrow, correct?
Yeah.
Verify that
so we're
okay.
This will go up
Sunday,
couple
March
hours.
15th.
A couple hours after we're done, I'd say it should be up. So.
Okay, so yeah, we are recording as we speak, just for like historical reference. Sunday, March 15th, 2020. We have just, you know, went through quite a crazy experience here in the U.S. with a state of emergency. There are several states effective basically as of right now, 9 o'clock, that are going to no longer have restaurants and bars open, is what I read.
Yep.
I think like there's Illinois, Ohio, there might be another one. I mean, as we speak right now at 9 p.m. on Sunday, March 15th. And like I said, this is I mean, the NBA is not going to be finishing, like they're postponing their games.
Right.
All the major sports are postponing their games. I would say expect to see probably travel completely cut in the U.S. At least I know some countries, if you're listening from other countries, that's already happened. I would assume that will be happening shortly here in the United States as well. But like I said, we kind of wanted to break down fact from fiction. Like,
so
what is this? What is this coronavirus that everybody's hearing? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everybody has an opinion on it, but how many people actually know what it is?
Yeah, and before going too far, since we're talking about all these closures and stuff, just to kind of not go deep into this, I'm sure we'll cover it a little later, but like the closures are a good thing, guys. Like that's on purpose, and that needs to happen in more states. Because that's how we're really going to limit the way that, you know, this has been spreading. So whenever you hear, you know, these places are closing or these places are closing, like don't freak out. Don't freak out about that, because that should be actually taken as a good thing. Like we're actually making an effort.
Right, absolutely. And I would say, to say that we are behind in our efforts would be doing it disjustice by even saying that, because we are so far behind that it's unbelievable. Now, that being said, before we start pointing fingers, this is an unprecedented event. We've not ever experienced this before. Our, you know, federal, local governments, we have plans in place, but I mean, there's a difference between, you know, planning this out on a little, like, you know, chalkboard pandemic-looking game, like the game Pandemic, as opposed to this happening in real life.
Yeah.
You know, have faith in your governments. Like, I know that's complete opposite of what we normally say, but at this time, we have some very smart people working on this stuff. You know, the CDC, at least in the United States, and the World Health Organization, on a worldwide scale, are working very hard, and they do have your best interest in mind. I'm tired of seeing these memes,
fucking smart. They're smart people. They're so fucking smart. Let them do their job.
What they do.
Let them do their job.
Exactly. I'm so tired of the memes that say, like, the CDC is, you know, like, taking, like, don't trust the CDC, this is going to be martial law, this is going to be this and that. Like, these people are not, they may be a government agency, but, like, their job is your welfare. Like, you know what I mean? These are, at the end of the day, scientists and medical professionals. Like, the last thing they want is to, like, take over your country.
Right.
Like, they literally don't give a fuck
right.
about taking over your country. You know what I mean? Like, they could give a fuck less. Like, their job is to help in these situations.
To better understand the severity of, you know, letting these people do their job, and don't be like they want to take over the country. For example, ISIS came out and said, yeah, we're fucking sitting this out. Like, we're quarantining ourselves. Like, even ISIS came out and told their guys, like, hey, everyone chill.
Let's cut back on the terrorism for a little bit. Just a little bit.
So,
like, they're chopping heads off for right now. We don't want to make sure you're washing your hands after you chop
they
heads
said
off.
that. Well, not the chopping head parts, but they did. They said cover your mouth when you cough and yawn. And it's hard to believe that terrorists' job is so boring that they're yawning all the fucking time. But they said,
I know, dude. What the fuck is up with that?
But
That's great.
and to wash your hands, like that, like ISIS is saying this shit. So I mean, anyways,
I don't know, man. I am, like, completely, like, beyond words. As, like, on a personal level, being a healthcare professional, I am beyond words as to what I'm experiencing right now. Like, I have never experienced anything like this in my life, and I mean, I would say I'm scared, like along with probably a lot of other people, and I think that's okay. But hopefully, this episode will help. The idea of this episode is not to cause more panic. Hopefully, by the time you're done with this, you won't feel. At the minimum, you won't feel any worse. Hopefully, you'll feel a little better, and at least you'll be better educated on what's going on.
Better educated, and, you know, and we have tidbits in here to share with you towards the end of, like, you know, some things about, again, like letting the people do their jobs who are smart at trying to counteract this stuff. There's already trials for cures and medicines going on, and we'll do our best to fill you in with some of that. So, where do you want to start this guy out?
Well, I was thinking, before we get into like some more of that kind of stuff, maybe we should first just kind of lay out and make sure that people understand like what exactly this is. So what we're going to do basically is just kind of lay out like some facts. This is going to be like science hour 101, Mike's science hour, I guess, if you will, for a little bit. So bear with me, but I really think that this will be helpful in understanding everything that's going on. So again, I think a lot of people are throwing around coronavirus and we don't really know what this is. So what we're now calling COVID-19 it's an infectious disease, and this is a condition caused by a virus that is called the severe acute respiratory syndrome corona 2, which I know sounds like a really long name, and you'll see that shortened as SARS-CoV, CoV-2, but that's actually like the germ itself, the virus. And it's in a class of viruses called the coronaviruses. Right. That's why the name is kind of misleading, because it's not just like the coronavirus is its own thing. It's kind of like this group of viruses, which are actually relatively common. There are common things like the cold that fall into this, all the way up to, if you're old enough to remember, SARS or MERS. Those were also coronaviruses. But those are all fall in like the family of coronavirus. So the way that this is spread is by droplet, so droplets in the air. We don't believe that this is actually an airborne illness, which is a little bit different. Like, I know that sounds kind of like splitting hairs, but there is a difference between droplet and airborne. Airborne would mean that it could ride on much smaller particles. Right now, we believe that it's just spread by droplet, and most coronaviruses are. So that would be coughing, sneezing, those kind of things. And the way that it's mostly spread, at least like to the next carrier, is through the mouth, the nose, and eyes. Right now, those are the three big ways that people are getting this. So some symptoms. Let's look at some basic symptoms of this. So generally, once you've come in contact with the SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus, these will appear within 2 to 14 days, which is actually really important, and that gives us a median, by the way, of 5 to 6 days before symptoms start to appear. So one of the big concerns with this from the beginning, from when I first heard about this, was this latency period where people can be asymptomatic but still be active carriers, which means they're spreading the disease. If we're not showing symptoms until 14 days, then, as a medical professional, that's terrifying, because that's 14 days someone is out in the community spreading this disease actively and has no idea that they are a carrier of this disease because they're not showing any symptoms. When we say asymptomatic, that just means there are no symptoms. They're not showing any, they're not coughing, they're not sneezing, anything crazy like that. They're just, completely fine, normal. Maybe have a sniffle, that kind of thing. But the symptoms we will start to see when they do present themselves, the most common is fever. And these are just going in order, by the way, of how common the symptoms are. And I don't have the percentages as to how many patients, but they do go in order. So fever is the most common symptom, dry cough, fatigue, which is just like feeling tired, worn down, excess sputum, shortness of breath, and those are the most common ones. Some people also will experience sore throat, headache, chills, nausea and vomiting, and diarrhea. Diarrhea being probably the most uncommon, but there has been a handful of cases where people have experienced like a couple of days of diarrhea prior to showing other symptoms. So it is worth noting. And those are the kind of symptoms you will see. So there are testing for this. The way that we're currently doing testing is something called the RR, so little r, big R, T-PCR, and that is a test that's going to take anywhere between 8 hours and 2 days is generally how long that takes. Now, that being said, they are backed up quite a bit on testing. And you'll hear this over and over again, that there's not enough tests. The tests are taking a week to get back. And I mean, that's true to some extent. That is true. They are working very hard on that. I know that there are, I believe, because Mike Pence actually gave a speech on that this evening, 10 states that are doing drive-through testing. So literally, like, you get an order from your doctor, you drive through, and they can have it within, like, 8 hours. Like, they will text you back, like, afterwards, like, whether or not you're positive or negative.
Oh, wow.
So that being said, at least in the United States, they are very much working on making tests more accessible. And I know that people are getting tired of hearing that, because for the last 3 weeks, they've been saying that there'll be more tests. And I understand the frustration. I'm a little frustrated about the slow response as far as getting testing out. I know there were some issues with the testing. I was talking to a friend who's a nurse practitioner, and they said that originally the CDC sent out tests. Now, keep in mind, this was a few weeks ago, but originally the CDC sent out tests. They had to recall them because they weren't accurate, and then they had to resend them out. So I think that's kind of what part of the slow response time was.
Sure.
Again, not to put down the CDC, things happen. You know what I mean? This is a brand new disease. I think it's worth noting that this is a novel disease. This is something that we have not seen before. And actually, I should probably talk a little bit about that, just about the origin. And by the way, jump in here whenever you want, dude. I'm just going to keep tracking along.
Yeah, no, please do. Whenever
whenever
I'm looking for more clarification, I will.
Okay, so I did do a little research on the origin as well. So this originally actually started off, people called this either the Wuhan coronavirus, originally Wuhan pneumonia. What happened was people started showing up to the ER in this little, well, it's not a little city. Compared to Chinese standards, it's a little city. There's still, apparently in Wuhan, there's the amount of people that there is in New York City. But again, Chinese cities are humongous. Yeah. So this is a smaller city in Chinese comparison. And it's in the Hubei province, by the way. But they started showing up to the ER with pneumonia. But the problem is like, they would test for all the common things that cause pneumonia, and these people didn't have any of these bacteria, so they couldn't figure out what was causing this pneumonia. And that's kind of when, actually, one doctor in specific, which unfortunately I didn't write down his name, but just to give credit, there was a doctor in specific that first I identified like this is something we haven't seen before. He isolated it and started spreading it to his peers, and just for the sake of noting, was actually silenced by China, like the government.
Later came out that he died from the coronavirus, but allegedly. Yeah. So. Well,
yeah, knowing China, allegedly, correct. We're not making any friends in China today, but that's okay. I mean, to be fair, they did kind of totally fuck the world by not saying anything about this, and then they're still suppressing information that could be vitally helpful for us to understand, like, how this is going to spread. So I have some beef with China today. But the first case was actually November 17th, which sounds like a long time ago, but really, if you think in terms of, like, we didn't really start to see a big outflow of this, and by big, we're talking like 5 cases, not even big, but until December 1st. Again, this is March 15th that we're recording this. That's a very short amount of time, and in the scale of, like, we're now talking about a global pandemic.
Yep.
So, but as of March 14th in Wuhan, China, and by the way, this also came, just a little, like, advert. This came from something that they call in China wet markets. And basically what that is it's like, imagine a market here in the United States, or some countries have wet markets, but like where you go to buy food, except when you pick out this food, like the animals that you're going to be taking home, like if you want to buy a cow, like, or like, you know what I mean, you want to buy beef, this is actually going to be a live cow. You pick out your cow and they slaughter it on site. And that's why they call it wet markets. It's because, like, these are live animals that are slaughtered. And again, that might sound very strange to us in Western culture, but it's very common in China. Very, very common in China. But they believe this all originated from a wet market in Wuhan. Specifically, from my understanding, it was a bat that was consumed. And that is more likely, like, the cause of this whole thing. But as of March 14th in Wuhan, there was 67,790 cases and 3,705 deaths, just in the Hubei province. So that was as of yesterday.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, man, it's crazy. Crazy. So, but going back, so we were talking about testing. So they do that test. There's also a blood test, which can take up to 2 weeks, and then they can do a CAT scan or a CT scan as well. So I think the next thing that would be probably beneficial to talk about is, like, we've talked about what this is, what the symptoms are, how it's spread, but, like, why do we care about this? I mean, we know that, what's the severity of this compared to other things? And in order to tackle that question, we have to look at a couple of different things. So we have to look at something called the CFR, which just stands for case fatality rate. So basically, that's like the amount of people, a percentage that die out of people that are infected, that have more, that actually pass away compared to the total number of people who contract the disease. So right now we're looking at a case fatality rate for this of about 1.7 to 3% of the people infected pass away, like will end up dying from this. And that number varies depending on where you're looking at. And there's things that drive that up, and there's places like right now, South Korea, for example, is like a perfect example. They handled this perfectly.
Really
they have
well.
a very low case fatality rate, yes.
Yeah.
But right now, as of today, and I just did this math literally 5 minutes ago because they just put out the new numbers from Italy, and it's kind of disgusting, has a 13% case fatality rate in
That's
Italy.
terrible.
13%.
Now, why would you think that is?
So I think the main reason for this is the average age group. So I read something like 40% of their population is over 60. It was either 50 or 60 years of age. I do not have, just to be clear, I do not have that exact number on me, but there was something along that lines, like 50 or 60 years of age. So they have a much older population, which, by the way, we'll get into this in like literally 1 second, but they tend to have a much higher mortality rate in older folks. Generally with diseases like this, we tend to see very young folks, very old folks, and immunocompromised folks hit the hardest. Now, this disease is kind of unique to where it's not affecting younger folks like a lot of things do, like SARS did, or like H1N1, like the swine flu. Those affected very young folks as well as very old folks. For whatever reason, this disease does not seem to affect young folks as seriously. So I have a CFR breakdown by age, like by age group. So 10 to 19 years of age have a 0.2 CFR, like 0.2. 20 to 29, 0.2. 30 to 39, 0.2%. 40 to 49, 0.4%. 50 to 59, 1.3%. 60 to 69, 3.6%. And then 70 and up jumps to 14.8%.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, Italy just announced today too that if you are over the age of 80, you there's no nice way to say it, you will be left to die.
Yeah, they're not going to be treating folks over the age of 80, which, I mean, sounds from the outside extremely cruel, but
nonetheless, that is a difficult decision to be made, but one that had to be made.
Exactly. If you have a 40-year-old that needs a respirator, you're going to go with the 40-year-old over the 80-year-old. And again, that sounds horrible, but like considering the absolute hell that is going on in Italy right now, I don't say this very lightly, but like seriously, my thoughts and prayers goes out to Italy. I've been thinking so much about that country. I couldn't imagine being.
Yeah.
No, it's like a war zone. It's like a war zone there. They literally announced 1,000 new cases, over 1,000 deaths today. In 24 hours, over 1,000 deaths, over 3,000 new cases.
That's so crazy.
In 24 hours.
That's insane.
So that's the CFR. That's one thing. That's one of two factors that when we're looking at the severity of like how dangerous a virus or a disease or a pathogen is going to be, we look at the CFR, and we also look at it as something called the R naught. So if you were to look at this, it would be like an R and then a 0 with a slash through it. But the way they pronounce it is R naught. Mm-hmm. And that is basically going to be, I'm going to try to explain this as simply as possible. So that is the average amount of people, someone who is infected, someone who is a carrier, is going to spread that disease to. So the average amount, like on average, they look at like everybody and how many people each one of those single people spread it is that to. And they take like an average of how many people a carrier would generally spread that to. Like, so like that would mean if I got sick, that let's say the R naught is 2. On average, I would spread that to 2 more people, and those 2 people would spread that to 2 more people, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, I tried to break that. It's kind of confusing, but I tried to break that down as easily as possible. So the R naught number is the number of people they're talking about. Excuse me, I'm kind of losing my voice a little bit. It's just been a long day. I've been on the phone with random people about this actually all day long, so bear with me for a second. Okay, so the R naught for COVID-19 is 2 to 3 people, which again doesn't sound like a lot. And I mean, there are diseases that have a lot higher R naughts. Like, for example, measles has 18 plus.
Wow.
But a very low CFR for measles.
Yeah. Right?
And most people are vaccinated. But Ebola, on the other hand, has less than 1. So a very deadly disease, right, has much higher CFR. I think it's like 50% CFR for Ebola, but very low chance of spreading it.
Right.
So, like I said, what makes it dangerous is when you have a decent R naught and also a higher mortality rate, which again, 3% doesn't sound like a very high fatality rate, but when we're talking about on the low end, predictions say that 40% of people, like worldwide, will be infected. On the high end, which is actually seems to be the most likely end, like this is what most models show, it's going to be closer to 60% of the world population will be infected with this.
And the thing is, we'll never know true numbers, you know. So.
Well, no. I mean, there will be a lot of countries like China, like North Korea, that are not, you know what I mean?
Right.
They will not share those numbers, share those numbers with the world. But so that's just to give you kind of an idea as to what, like where COVID's R naught stands. Like I said, 2 to 3 people doesn't sound like a lot, but really, I mean, like I said, add that up. Like each one of those people infect 2 to 3 more people, 2 to 3 more people, 2 to 3 more people, and that's why we have this exponential growth where every day it seems like the numbers double in certain countries. You know what I mean? Where precautions aren't taken. It's because they do. You know what I mean? And that makes it very dangerous, very, very dangerous.
Yep.
So like I said, this is now considered a pandemic by the World Health Organization, and they define that as a global outbreak to where there is community spread. And I'm sure you guys have probably heard this thrown around, like somebody got this community spread, it wasn't from like travel. All that means is that it's in the community and people are spreading it, like it's spreading naturally. Which sounds really shitty, like it's just doing it naturally, but I mean it is. That's what the virus does. That's its job, right? Like that's what, like it just like wants to spread from person to person naturally, and that's what community spread is. That just means it's in communities and it's just like naturally traveling from person to person. Like we cannot, generally how a lot of people define it is like once it becomes like pandemic, we go from like trying to confine it to just like mitigating the results of it, like mitigating the damage done, basically. Like we're not going to confine this. Best we can do is try to like slow it down and figure out how we're going to deal with it.
And a great reasoning for that, you know, so like what you just said, like we're not we're not going to be able to put an end to it per se, right? At least not for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can do is we can try and slow it down by quarantining ourselves. Everyone stay indoors. Let's slow this shit down. And the biggest reason for slowing it down is because we need to do our part in helping hospitals do their part.
Yes. And that was actually a case I think some guys going to bring up, but absolutely, yeah. So there's something called a peak of any disease, right? Like when a pandemic happens, there's a global peak, and that's the day where the most new cases are, there's the most new cases that are found, right? Like the most people that are infected in a single day. They call that the peak. And then things generally tend to peter out. What we can do by doing the things that I'm going to tell you to do here in a second is slow down that peak, spread out that peak. They call stretching it, so that like it will peak, but it won't be as sharp of a peak. Because if we have too sharp of a peak, already our hospital systems are going to be overwhelmed. But we can do a great job of helping them out by stretching out that peak so that it's not going to be literally the hospitals being flooded. There not being enough room for people. I know in our local areas, our local hospitals already have like literally giant circus looking tents out for overflow.
Yep.
That's terrifying, dude. That is terrifying. So right now, COVID-19 is in 141 different countries. As of today, and these are all as of today numbers, according to, and by the way, we sometimes pull facts from like shitty places in our episodes. Like we're not super fact oriented. Right. I just want to let everybody know everything that I just told you is from the World Health Organization and the CDC website. I tried to stay as, like I said, the whole goal of this episode was to spread, real information, real facts, try to get rid of disinformation.
That's correct.
So all of these are from either the World Health Organization or CDC. Just if people want references for these, check out either one of those websites. Even if you're not an American, check out the CDC website. It's got a huge, vast amount of knowledge, like stuff on there, information. But so as of today, according to the WHO, there's 152,428 cases worldwide, 5,720 deaths. In the U.S., there is 1,629 cases, 41 deaths being reported, and this is being reported in 47 states. So that being said, we have tested a minute, tiny amount of people, at least in the United States.
Right.
I would expect that number to be monumentally higher in actuality because we have tested so few people so far. And I think that's like what everybody seems to be saying. Like this is and I mean, obviously you can see the response from the government and from organizations. Like obviously they're more worried than there being like 1,000 cases. That's just confirmed cases via testing.
Correct.
Right now they assume there is, like I said, monumentally more cases. I would say probably minimum in the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions of people. And I know that number sounds super scary, but that is pretty much what people are predicting right now. So, and again, this information isn't to scare you. It's just to let you know this isn't just the flu. It's just a flu.
See, yeah, if you can actually just say something about that, like this is not the flu. No,
this is not at all. Not at all the flu.
That's a big misinformation thing that goes on. Is that it's just the flu? It's just a different version of the flu. It's a new version of the flu.
Or this has only killed 41 people, and there's been how many people that died of the flu last year?
Right.
Like we're at the tip of the iceberg right now. Like, I don't think people understand we are so far away from the peak of this disease right now. Some people say it won't even peak until, like, some models, like not just people, like not random people. There are scientific models that say, like, just to clarify, I'm not just pulling that out of my ass, but say it won't peak until next fall. Just to give you kind of an idea as to how early we are in this.
It's insane. And that, like, and there's people in my life that are just, taking it very lightly. And it's a shame. It's a shame. Now I'm not saying go out there and cause riots and this and that, but do what you need to do to collect enough food to quarantine yourself for a little bit. You really do need to. I mean, just look at the way that the world is going right now. Like if
you have the possibility to do so, because I know a lot of people, it's a financial thing. If you have the opportunity to do so, I say absolutely. If not, I am going to give you kind of some recommended things to do, because I agree with you 100%. If you have the ability to also, for God's sakes, if you're listening to this right now and you are over 60 years old, please
stay
quarantine yourself.
Inside. Yes.
Yes, please self-quarantine. Limit exposure to others as much as possible. Please, for the love of God. Just trust us on this one. Trust the CDC on this one.
Think about,
that's the recommendation.
If you are over 60 years old, to just quarantine yourself. If there's something you need, think of someone that reach out to someone that you know via phone call or text and see if they can't drop something off on your porch for you. If you're over 60 years old, let someone else do that act of kindness for you that is younger and healthier.
No, and I totally agree. And I just want to throw out, too, my wife and I are, as of tomorrow, going to start just advertising, I guess, online, that if there is anybody in need of that that is immunocompromised, that is elderly, we would be happy to do that for them. And I know that there's a lot of other people doing the same thing.
And that's exactly what needs to be going on right now. This is an opportunity to, in a weird way, it makes no sense saying out loud, but in a weird way, it's a great opportunity for us to come together.
Yes.
Obviously,
absolutely.
don't come together, but come together in the sense that, help each other out, help each other get through this, because we can and we will. It's just we're losing people along the way, and let's limit that.
Right, exactly. And like I said, we may not, because I hear all the time too, we're going to get it anyways. And actually, Britain is taking this approach, and I'm disgusted by it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That we're going to get it anyways. We're not going to limit things because it's going to happen. Might as well get people infected and get it over with.
It's so stupid. Well, this just goes back to what I said before. Slow it down so you're not overwhelming.
Exactly.
Exactly.
We're going to have so many more deaths if we have this all happen at the same time, because we do not have enough ventilators. We do not have enough hospital beds. We certainly don't have enough ICU beds. And I can tell you, as a medical staff member, only a couple of weeks into this, we're exhausted. We are exhausted. I have been working my ass off, nonstop, nonstop meetings, nonstop, trying to mitigate, what can we do for infection control? There's so many things. And, I can tell you, we are exhausted already. Please help us out by slowing this down some so that we at least have something to work with. Because if not, I can tell you for certainty this is going to be a clusterfuck. And it's going to be a lot of people are going to die that don't need to because we don't have the resources to care for them. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So that being said, what can you do? Things that you can do besides, we obviously already talked about, if you can, self-isolate yourself, you know what I mean? Limit exposure. That's one of the big things. Hand washing is a huge, huge thing. Just I read a fact that people who wash their hands 5 times a day are 40% less likely to develop a respiratory illness. And obviously this would be included in a respiratory illness. You know what I mean? It wasn't specific to COVID-19, but it was. It's not some special secret. It acts the same way any respiratory disease does.
Correct.
This isn't something that's creeping in your room in the night that is going to get you, right? We can be smart. We can do things that we know that work for infection control purposes, right? So hand washing, huge hand wash. if you're not at a place where you can hand wash, hand sanitize. And I know that, like, there are a lot of places that are out of hand sanitizer right now. I get that. I also know that there are a lot of people that are, like, have, like, stockades of it, like companies that are, like, giving it away. Just, like, watch out for it, because it does pop up.
There's also, if you look, this is one actual act of kindness going on. I don't remember where at exactly, but there's a distillery that makes vodka, and the first I'm gonna get all the terminology wrong for, like, all you people who you know make alcohol. Don't bash me here.
Out there.
but so there's, like, the first pour, or the first thing that you distill you can't use it. It's still too high in alcohol percentage. So there's distilleries out there that from that first distill that they do, they use that just as cleaner around their shop anyways, but they've been giving it out within the community to clean, to use as hand sanitizer, all of that stuff. So look at distilleries around your neighborhoods or things like that, check their Facebook pages or Instagrams or Twitters or whatever, see if they're doing something like that, and even, reach out to them, recommend that they do, if if they're still kind of brewing away or whatever. So that's just one.
Sure. No, absolutely. Also, if you can find rubbing alcohol, which I know has been hard to find also recently, but rubbing alcohol and, like, aloe vera gel. Like, you don't ask me for the percentages, you'll have to look up that recipe online, but you can make your own hand sanitizer with those two things, just adding rubbing alcohol to aloe vera gel, and just kind of, like, finding the right proportions. You can make your own, but that's another thing. Also, sanitize high traffic areas.
Yep.
So, like, wipe your doorknobs, wipe your office off if you're still, wipe your desk off, wipe places that, you might not think about need to be clean. But, like I said, door handles are a huge one. People don't think about, door handles. Your car, you're constantly bringing things into your vehicle, and we don't need to take those to other places, right? So wipe down your car, like your steering wheel, your handles of your car doors, like things like that. Just, like, sanitize those kind of areas. Do not touch your face. And I know this has almost become a meme because of all the people now that they're saying don't touch your face,
and then immediately,
they touch their face.
Fucking lick their fingers.
I mean, it is a hard habit to break, to be fair. It is a very hard habit.
I struggled
consciously.
While I was getting supplies. I struggled for I'm sorry, I'm reading a text. I'm reading hospital policy because so my wife is pregnant and she's due any day, so it's been an issue.
Yeah.
A couple days ago, I made some store runs to get food and that stuff, and while I was in one of the stores, it took me forever to try and get a plastic bag open because I was like, there's no fucking way I'm licking my fingertip to just easily get this bag open, So I sat there for so long until I was able to get it open. I was like, no fucking way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a pain in the ass. I mean, I've had to consciously think about, because, as humans, we suck at touching our faces. We are constantly touching our faces. But, I've had to make a conscious effort to not do so.
My wife said that, my wife said hospital policy has been updated. You can't leave the hospital while I'm there, meaning her. If you leave, you can't come back until the next day. So I don't understand how that really helps, but...
I don't know, man. That's weird. Yeah. So also, you can, if you are coughing and sneezing, cover, do the vampire cough, right? I think people kind of know what that is now, where you cough into your
Straight
elbow.
Into your elbow.
The old vampire cough. Also, if you're coughing or sneezing, that would probably be a good idea to self-quarantine yourself for the time being. Just throwing that out there. It doesn't mean that you have it, but it might mean, hey, I should probably be better safe than sorry. I had self-quarantine on here, but we talked about that. or like limit contact, distance yourself from others, especially like if you have older loved ones. If you're showing symptoms or not, like FaceTime them, Skype them. I have not seen my grandmother in 2 weeks, and it's like killing me. You know how close I am with my grandmother, Jake. You know how,
Yep.
And it's been killing me, but I know it's like that's what I need to do for her. Yeah, exactly. Especially me being in the healthcare field, I'm at extremely high risk for contracting it. So, just limit contact with those folks especially. So the next one is probably the most controversial. Mask or no mask? That is thy question.
Sure. Well, so now there's... Oh, you know what? Go ahead. I don't know why I would even fucking step on top of you here.
No, that's okay. So there is some conflicting data with this one. Surgical masks may, from what I've read, may reduce your risk of contracting the virus.
So I heard a surgical mask doesn't necessarily reduce your risk of contracting, but it can help limit you from spreading.
And that's a huge one, yes. And I was going to bring that up, yes. But I've also read some conflicting, research that shows that it may. But I think that's probably more, because it's been shown that places that wear masks regularly, like Asian countries, have had, obviously besides China, but have had a better response to it. Now that may just be because if both parties, the infected and the uninfected, are wearing a mask, that would probably double up your chance,
so now,
right?
But then now there's also, I don't know if you're going to say this, so sorry if I'm stepping on you, but there's surgical mask, but there's also a more heavy duty one. I think it's called an N95 or something like that. Does that ring a bell to you? And now, so that one they say could potentially help, because that one actually, so a surgical mask, you just put it on, you tie it around the back of your head, and that's that. But there's still areas that are open around your mouth and stuff. It just depends on how you're moving. It's not closed. So that's why they say it would help if you were sick and you cough, you're coughing straight into this mask. So it's going to help limit it, where if you're breathing, it's still there's still these open edges where this I think it's called N95. I'm not sure if that's the actual word
They
or not,
are, N95 or N99. The numbers based on the percentage of how small the filter is, meaning how few particles can get in.
Sure. And so those ones are, from my understanding, pretty tight up against your face and
They do, correct. Now, here's what I'm going to say about that. We in the healthcare field have a huge shortage of those.
Yep.
So just as a healthcare provider, will they reduce your chances? Yes. Please, though, unless you are directly working with someone who you know to be positive for this, you're going to be doing more harm than good in the way that you're taking away from people who are going to be every day working with those patients.
That's correct. Because we don't stockpile, so these hospitals have a huge shortage of them because they're it's just been so easy for their whoever in charge of whoever the supplier is or whatever for the hospital just clicks a button, says, okay, I need 5,000 more, and they're there tomorrow. But it's an issue right now, so.
Right, a huge issue. Yes, they're actually counting masks at most hospitals. I know that there are certain hospitals in our area that have them locked up because not only staff are stealing them, but people from patients are stealing them.
Mm-hmm.
So again, please try to save those. We do not have any PPEs as far as that goes, N95s or full containment units, the full containment suits. We have none of those because they're all going directly to the hospital, and I work specifically with long-term care patients. I have to provide my own N95 masks.
Do you have any?
I think I do. And I think I'm one of a few people who work that do my job that have them.
Wow.
And I had a pain in the ass getting them, but I had to buy my own and provide my own.
Yeah.
So again, they're extremely hard to come by. Like I said, please try to save them for the people who need them, because we're really hurting in the healthcare field for PPEs. And those are the people on the front line. Those are the people who are going to be caring for you when you get sick, or your loved one when they get sick.
Yep.
And we need to stay healthy.
Yeah.
We need to do our best to stay healthy, so we can take care of you. So, but yes, so that's the deal with the masks. I would say surgical masks aren't in such hot supply. If you think that'll help, if that makes you feel more comfortable, honestly, I have no problem with you wearing that. It can't decrease your odds of getting it. At best, it can increase it a little bit. So if that, you know what I mean? And especially if you do have a cough, sneeze, if you've tested positive, definitely if you're coming in contact with anyone, wear one of those surgical masks. Because, as you pointed out, they do a much better job, if you have it, of containing it to yourself.
Yep.
So, that's going to be the biggest thing with the mask.
Yeah.
We talked about the peak. We talked about overloading the healthcare system.
Yeah.
The only other biggest thing that I can that I would say is, I would say, just speaking from the United States, because there are countries who this has already happened to, I am expecting at this point a quarantine period, like an enforced quarantine period, except for healthcare professionals. I would, if you have not already, get just 2 weeks worth of supplies. Maybe shoot for a month, but just have enough food, water, supplies in your home, where even if we don't go through a government quarantine, odds are, honestly, seriously, if it's 60% chance that you're going to get this, you're going to need to stay home for 2 weeks.
That's correct.
You are going to be quarantined for 2 weeks.
Yep.
So make sure you have these supply, just things like food, canned food.
And even if you want to laugh at the virus, which you shouldn't, but even if you wanted to laugh at the virus, there are so many people who are taking this seriously and also going crazy. Frankly, if you go to a store, you're gonna have to get creative in some shit that you can buy right now, because things are low, and they're doing the best they can and restocking shelves and all that, but it's been a frenzy lately. So if for nothing more, if don't wait, you need to get some stuff. If you don't have anything and you're I'll go this weekend, I guess maybe, hopefully. But
I would not sit on this week. I'm going to say that, and that's why we're putting this out early, is because this is developing very quickly. Every day is a whole nother story. You know what I mean? This is developing so quickly. Don't sit on this week. Don't sit on this week. Go get this stuff now. Again, I don't mean to sound alarmist, but I would not be surprised at all if we are quarantined at least in the U.S., by the end of the week. And I know that sounds alarmist, but things are moving very, very quickly. And I think this is, again, more serious than, unfortunately, our government initially led us to believe. You know what I mean? But it is, we're here now. That's all in the past, and we need to take this seriously now. And you need to go get supplies. Now, that being said, if you're showing symptoms, please do not go out. Please have someone else go out for you. If you are in that high-risk groups that we talked about, please do not go out to the stores. There is someone in your life who will do this for you. There is a loved one in your life that will go do these things for you that is younger. I know that there is. And like I said, if not, literally throw it up on Facebook, and I guarantee you someone will be happy to do that for you. Yep. Someone will be happy to go get those things for you. Don't hesitate to ask for help. We're all in this together. We should be helping. And that being said, not only don't hesitate to ask for help, but if you are young and you are able, we have an obligation to care for people who are weaker than us. You know what I mean? To care for people who need our help. We need to step up. This is the time that people need to step up and do some good. Like, this is your time to do it. Get out there, help people that you can. You know what I mean? Just do whatever you can to help, because there are going to be a lot of people and a lot of families affected by this. And odds are that you are going to be affected by this. Odds are that someone you know, multiple people you know, are going to be affected by this.
Yeah.
So if you're able now, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to need help later. So.
Yep.
Besides that, the only other thing, honestly, I have, which is probably the biggest point, is remain calm. Like, I know the things that we just talked about were scary, and like I said, I'm personally scared, but there's a difference between being scared and going into full panic mode, and being scared and just like using that opportunity to be more cautious, to be more vigilant, to pay attention to what we're doing, to pay attention to where we're going.
Correct.
Those kind of things. But we need to remain calm. Nothing is going to be beneficial from everybody panicking and losing their minds and freaking out. Like, that isn't going to help this situation at all. Like, we need to stay level-headed. We need to stay calm. We need to know that we are going to make it through this.
Yep.
The human species has endured much worse than this, right? Like, this is a drop in the bucket compared to some of the things that we have conquered as human beings. We are going to make it through this. We just need to remain calm and just, again, go out with that spirit of helpfulness. Like, right now, every day is Christmas. Like, and I know that sounds weird, but, like, think of how, like, much you care about other people and helping and doing good on Christmas. Like, that's what we need to do right now.
That's true.
Like, every day needs to be that, like, loving, you know what I mean? Like just wanting to help others and give to others. That's what we need right now.
Yep. It's absolutely true. And that's, I think that's really important. I think that this is a really good opportunity for us to come together in that sense. And I think what you, Mike, and your wife are gonna do, in terms of posting that online, that you're willing to go help or whatever. I think that's a really great idea. I'd love for people to email us or tweet at us about other great ideas for acts of kindness throughout this. Let's start figuring out how to get creative with the acts of kindness that we can do. Because there's challenges here. We can't really, or we shouldn't come into contact with anyone, so it makes it a little bit harder to help out people. But, like, an easy one is, like, still make phone calls to some of the older people in your life that like, make sure they're doing okay. Because if they're, they're home alone, like, you need to check in on them, at least through phone call, But, it sucks because I looked online and there's, some random acts of kindness that have been going on, but nothing more than what we've already covered. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. You see some of the shitty people who, like, bought up all the hand sanitizer. I don't know if you've seen this. There's a guy in Tennessee who took a U-Haul and hit up, like, every Dollar General or every dollar store that he could find, like Tennessee to Kentucky and back, like, and has, like, over 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, and he was selling them on eBay and Amazon, just, like, price gouging. Amazon...
That's just terrible, man.
Yeah, and Amazon and eBay both suspended his accounts, took it down. So, like, now here's the good thing, right? They took it down because it's price gouging, but now that guy's sitting on, like, 17,000 bottles that, like, are just sitting there. However, someone did, I don't know who did the report on it or whatever, but ultimately the Attorney General in Tennessee is investigating him now, and they also, I don't know if they took it or if he's just trying to make himself look good. Either way, all these supplies wound up at a local church and being handed out through the community. And then some of the hand sanitizers, I believe, were returned to some stores in Kentucky, available for purchase again. So,
that's good. I mean,
it's good that they're trying to make right on that stuff. I just hope that there's other, because there's definitely other people out there who did this exact same thing. I just hope that those people are able to, realize what they're doing is pretty fucked up, and they really need to help out the ones around them, rather than try to make a quick profit off of like something as crazy as what we're going through. The other thing, and please help me out on this, but there's, in regards to letting the smart people do what they're good at doing, right? Which is figure this shit out and figure out how to curb it as best as they can. There's a couple companies and a couple, doctors that have already begun testing. The good thing about all of this, and there's not many good things, the good thing about all this is that they're not doing the normal, like, what is it, FDA type of screenings and all that, which make the process go real slow. They're really expediting everything right now in order for these trial runs and everything to take place. So if they're going along, they're like, there's Gilead Science, large company that had something that seemed promising. I don't know what the state of that is anymore, but that was going along pretty nicely. There's another one that I saw today where they're taking serum from recovered patients. So, in theory, that serum has the antibodies to help fight off this virus. Now, the only question that they're trying to figure out is to, first do it in a small sample size, from there see if they can replicate it, yada, 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 yada. And then ultimately try to figure out, okay, like, can you get enough serum from one person to help out 3 people? Or is it like serum from one person will only help out one person? What is this rule of thumb? How do we do this? That's what they're looking into right now. So those are all good signs. However, all this stuff, even with expediting, it takes time. So that's why we need to help slow down the spreading by self-quarantining. We there's no reason, to let that peak, because, a week from now, we might, let's stay optimistic and let's say that they're going to find something that, there are things here and there that seem to be helping, but we need to give these people enough time to figure out what that is actually helping and really hone in, so if we just let it spike, like, we're fucking ourselves. Like, we could save so many more lives if we really help slow this thing down.
right.
Do you know of any other, I know you sent me a couple links. I don't want my phone to die by trying to check it.
No, that's okay. Yeah, there's a couple of medications that they're looking at. One of them, a big one, is an HIV medication. I don't have the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a very common, like, HIV medication that they've found some success with. There's been some studies, which, by the way, like, that would be ideal. If we could find a medication that's already on the market that's been proven to be safe, that's going to be a lot quicker than starting from scratch with, like, a medication. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. There's also something called chloroquine phosphate.
Yep.
And people are seeing that, like there's been a couple of studies that show that this has been really effective treating, like, the pneumonia that this COVID-19 causes, because that's one of the big issues, is you don't only get the COVID-19, but that turns into pneumonia, which on its own can be extremely dangerous, but especially, like, in concurrence with this. So So yeah, there's a couple things that are already on the market that they're looking at that are showing promise. But again, just to reinforce what you said, I mean, the best way that we can help with that is to slow down the peak of this and to slow down the rate that people are being infected, to give them time to find stuff. There's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me that are working day and night nonstop on finding, maybe not even necessarily a cure, but something that can increase or decrease, I should say, the mortality rate. You know what I mean? Give people a better chance. Yep. So, but again, the only way that we can do this is by slowing things down, because just overwhelming those people that are working on this is not going to help the situation at all. Yep. So you better believe that like every, drug maker in the entire world is working nonstop on figuring this out. Not only because it would be beneficial to us, but they would make a bajillion dollars on it. You know what I mean?
Dollars. Like, yeah. So, but most importantly, you got a lot of really smart fucking people trying to tackle this. So let's do our part and not escalate things. Let's do our part and not fucking riot in the streets. Let's do our part, stay calm, and
also please don't like bar hopping and shit like that. Like, come on.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, I'm sorry. I've seen so many, like, with St. Patty's Day going on right now. Ugh. I just want to point out, too, that Ireland themselves has canceled all St. Patrick's Day events.
Yeah,
we don't need to be doing St. Patrick's Day events. Ireland canceled.
It's probably good for the water. It's probably good for the water in Chicago to skip a year of turning it and dyeing it green.
Yeah, sure. The fish will appreciate it. I'm sure the fish will appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to, just.
Well, please, the biggest thing is stay healthy. Everything, stay healthy. Don't fuck with your immune system by getting shit-faced. Like,
exactly.
Keep everything, keep everything good. Like, it's not that bad. If it's not that bad to skip drinking for a little bit. Like,
yeah, absolutely. No, for sure, 100%. Yeah, it's again just kind of common sense things. Like, this isn't like this isn't a video game. This isn't a movie. This is real life. We're in a pandemic as we speak. Like, we need to start kind of thinking in that mindset. Like, for real. Like, we need to, this isn't a game. This isn't a joke. This is really going on, and we are really a part of it.
Right. Exactly.
And again, just be careful, please, with like misinformation. Just like double check your sources, like we always say. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Check your sources. Like there's so much fake news out there, which we're going to do an episode on. I know we keep saying that. We are going to do an episode on that. But like, there's just be careful. Like, drinking pee is not going to solve your coronavirus problem. Doing cocaine does not cure the coronavirus.
Not the cure, but boy, do I wish.
No. Right, dude? Oh my God! If it came out like cocaine, that's where it's at. I'd be like, yeah,
did it.
We're gonna party this coronavirus away, dude. But no, I cannot believe that French officials actually had to say that, but they did. I'm not like,
it's crazy.
That's not just like me being like facetious. That's real life. The French officials had to announce that cocaine does not cure the coronavirus.
Jesus.
I'd like to think there was just some cocaine dealer behind that, like, on totally.
Well, of course. I mean, the same sort of thing happened in Iran, where they got word that alcohol helps kill it, but alcohol's illegal there, so they don't know any better, right? And so they're all trying to buy this bootleg alcohol, and there's something like 44 people died just from the alcohol poisoning. Well, it wasn't actually alcohol poisoning. It was however the fuck they made this alcohol. Like, they were pretty much drinking, like, bleach. Like, so just don't fall for these stupid things if it's not, like, there's no quick fix right now. Like, let's wait for the official word to come out, and leave it at that. Like, just double check your sources, like Mike said.
Yes. absolutely. And I just want to throw this in here, and I'm not poking at anyone. Like, this is not a jab at anyone. This is a sincere, just like, again, be careful. Everything we said today has been just, like, honestly, like, out of our own. We just want what's best for everyone kind of thing. But religion is a great thing to have. I think that, especially right now, faith is a great thing to have.
Yep.
But, again, be careful, because there have been plenty of stories about, like, these deceptive creatures that say, like, they can cure it by, you know, like doing, you know, like their prayers or sending you holy water and things like that.
Right.
If people can profit off of anything, they will. And unfortunately, there are people trying to profit off of this.
Absolutely.
Again, just be careful with that. I'm not saying that. Again, I think faith is a great thing to have right now. But like I always say, I think that faith or religion in general and science should work in concert and not against each other. Right? Like, we need to also not throw science out the window because we believe that God is going to protect us. You know, maybe God is protecting the people who are coming up with these cures, and that's his way of intervening, right? Like, maybe God is going to spark the idea in somebody's head of what the cure is going to be. Like, that is believable. I can believe that. But just by believing that God is going to protect you from coronavirus is probably not the best approach right now. Like at least in the way that you think he's just going to put you in a bubble kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, just, again, be careful with that. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not trying to downplay anybody's beliefs. Just be careful with that. That's all I'm going to say.
Please be careful, and don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Please don't be an asshole. I just read a story about a lady who was trying to protect herself, and this is here in America, and was wearing a mask in a store in Walmart, I think specifically, and three, like, between 16 and 20-year-old teenage girls spit on this woman, because they were giving her a hard time about wearing a mask, like thinking she was just like a fucking dweeb, you know, for wearing a mask. So,
insane.
Again, that kind of shit is just, I don't know, outrageous. It's despicable. It's fucking despicable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't be an asshole. Please don't be an asshole. This is not the time to be an asshole. We're assholes. Trust me.
Yeah.
We're fucking assholes.
We can be assholes.
This is not the time to be an asshole. Yeah, we're fucking for sure assholes, but, like, we know when it's time to be an asshole and when, you know, we need to get a little more serious. And obviously this is one of those times that we need to be a little more serious. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you're not even more scared than you were than at the beginning of this. Like we said, I think the big thing is, like, it's very natural to get worried whenever you hear of something else, you know, closing down for however long, right? But those are all necessary steps, and frankly, things should be closing down sooner than what they currently are. So, and that's, you know, and that's the quickest way that we're going to get to beating this. So whenever you see things close down, don't freak out. Be a little more optimistic.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know. I think a good closing thought is just, like, something that the Italian prime minister said when he put the quarantine in place, and, like, it just really stuck with me, and I wish I could remember the exact quote. I mean, it was in Italian, but, like, the translated quote. But I looked all over, and I can't find it, like, right now, because I was like, oh, that's such a good thing to kind of end on. But it was along the lines of, like, today we must stay apart so tomorrow we can enjoy each other's embrace. Like, that was essentially how it translated into English. And I thought that was just such an eloquent thing to say. Like, that is just such a... I mean, that sums it up. Like, today, you know, we need to, like, you know, we need to stay apart so that we can have a tomorrow. You know what I mean? So that there can be a tomorrow for us. So...
I agree. So everyone, please reach out to us, either... You know, our email, it's sywsolpod@gmail.com, or tweet at us. It is at SYWSOL. And, share this podcast, share it with others. Hopefully we can get some good information out there rather than all this bogus shit that's been, spreading
going around
quicker than the fucking virus itself. So,
right.
I think that's about all we got. Stay safe out there and stay calm.
Be safe and yes. Yeah, remain calm. We are going to make it through this. We will 100% make it through this. Just like I said, we've made it through a lot worse. Remain calm and be safe. Just do the things we talked about, and you're going to be okay.
Yep.
Like, just know that you're going to be okay. You just need to stay calm and have faith in the people who are trying to take care of you. So
there it is. All right, guys.
Well, yeah.
Have a good one.
Peace and love.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.